back with another episode of On the Subject. I'm your host, Michael Vilardo, co-founder and CEO of Subject. You can find us at subject.com. And remember, like and subscribe down below. Spotify and YouTube is what we're trying to push because we have such a special guest here today. We have an entrepreneur, an immigrant, a founder, an incredible leader who cares about students above all else and is the CEO and founder of Papaya Tutor. And we are so lucky to have her today. Sandra LaPlante, thank you so much for joining the show and welcome to Los Angeles.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we're really excited to have you here. And again, what I always love to lead with anyone in education is thank you so much for all that you do for students. It's so meaningful. You know, any student you impact is going to impact the world times 10 because, you know, better citizen, husband, wife, brother, sister. And so what you're doing is so impactful to this world. So thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here and talk to you. Yeah.
So let's talk about your story because you have such an incredible story. You've raised venture capital. You've been able to build your business with very little connection coming to this country. Talk about how special it is and tell about your origin story. And so you're from Peru. Where in Peru are you from?
Lima. I'm from Lima, but both my parents are kind of like immigrants themselves in Peru because they're from, rural areas of Lima. So they immigrated to Lima. So I am first generation Limeña. And I came here when I was 17 in search of the American dream. I wanted to kind of pay for my own college. I didn't want my parents to pay for my college. So I came here because I saw in the movies that people, go to school and work at the same time. But I didn't know it was going to be hard, right? Especially when you go to school for engineering. But yes, I came here, and long story short, to get into Papaya is that I couldn't pay for a tutor, but I grew up semi-privileged. So I was, accustomed to get tutors every time I was doing bad at school, and I couldn't really get a tutor. And when I got one, I couldn't, coordinate schedules. I couldn't afford one for many hours. So I got tutors from back home in Peru when I was struggling through engineering school. And then I graduated as an engineer, started working at Accenture.
That's a great company. What city were you based in?
LA.
LA? Oh, what?
Yeah, I'm
wow.
coming
Okay,
back.
so we have a ton of stuff to talk about on the pod
Boomerang,
today.
yeah.
We're really getting a full moment,
Yeah.
or full circle moment. So, couple questions there. So Lima, I've always wanted to go, and
Yeah.
LA doesn't have a lot of direct trips to LATAM, but they have direct flight to Lima. How long does it take to get adjusted to the altitude in Lima?
Lima is fine. It's also on the West Coast, so it would have a similar view than LA. So you would like Lima a lot. I would say Cusco, which is
That's the higher elevation. Because I
Correct.
heard it
Yeah.
really, people, I just always worry about getting altitude sickening because I really want to go because all the beautiful sights there. And so do you go back a lot, or what's your relationship with Peru today? Where are your parents living? And what do you think of all the growth that's happened in South America the last few years?
Yeah, I go back a lot because I would say 60% of our workforce is in Lima.
Oh, amazing. This is incredible.
Right, because that's how it started, right? Like I got tutors from Peru, then I started working in Silicon Valley. So I noticed that I never saw people that look like us, people of color in Silicon Valley, right?
Not many.
Not many. And I was like, what's going on? I was like, and then I would see them in the kitchen. So I was like, they're here. They're just not in the tables making the engineering decisions, right? And that's when I noticed that there was just more than a racial problem, it's a lack of equity and the socioeconomic problem, right? Like people with low income cannot afford tutoring. I kind of hacked my way into being able to afford something that only rich people can afford. So that's when I quit my job and everything. And so we started hiring from where I knew, which was Peru. So most of the tutors became full-time employees. So half of the workforce is in Peru. So I go 2-3 times a year.
Oh, this is amazing. And so you got your engineering degree from University of Central Florida, correct? Go Knights. Shout out the Knights.
Yes,
You're
go
great,
Knights.
beautiful campus, one of the most epic campuses in the country. And I believe it's the largest school in the country now, undergraduate
Really?
population. I believe it's over 50,000 or even closer to 70,000. Excuse me. We'll have to fact check that after the pod.
Yeah.
And so then you step into the world of Accenture.
Yeah.
You're in LA, you're in Silicon Valley.
Mm-hmm.
What did you learn stepping out of Peru and Florida and entering California briefly? What did you like? What did you not like? and how did that shape your entrepreneurial spirit?
Love California. Love the people. Love the way that people think in California. Um, More social idealist, which I love,
Yeah.
because I am one as well. I think working in Silicon Valley just like did some like it didn't sit well with me, right? Because
Where did you live when you were there?
um, I worked as a consultant for Google, Facebook, so I would
Oh,
stay a
okay.
lot
So you
of
were in the
San
peninsula a
Jose,
lot.
right? Or
Yeah, no, and I'm interested to hear your takes on this. And so, yeah, I've worked for SF companies many years,
yeah,
but I never formally lived full time in SF.
you travel,
I traveled there a
yeah,
bunch, mostly the city, thankfully,
yeah,
because it was a startup, and then Uber, which were both based in the city. And I'm a city guy. I love being able to walk
yeah,
around, bike, and such. But now I go to Silicon Valley quite a bit, raising capital, customers, and so
right.
going to Menlo Park, Palo Alto all the time.
Hmm.
You are right though, and like one thing, I always have like the FOMO of, oh my God, you want to be the best founder, you got to be in Silicon Valley. 'Cause, that's like what Twitter's always feeding you. But then, I love about being in LA is that LA is such a diverse city, and not just ethnically, but just idea wise, people are wanting to be in movies here,
Hmm.
music, real estate. I like the different aspects of the culture.
Hmm.
It allows for you to learn from different perspectives, and Silicon Valley sometimes uh, may be overwhelming because the how much of the homogeneity there is,
Hmm.
and so I wonder if that you felt that way too.
Yeah, I think that when I started working in Silicon Valley or the Bay
Yeah,
Area,
yeah, yeah.
I wanted to first move there because San Francisco was a really like
Yes,
pretty city, right?
it's
Very
beautiful. I
beautiful.
mean, I think it's the most beautiful topography in North
Yeah,
America.
100%. So I wanted to move there. I was like, oh, why did they move me to LA? Um, but then I started appreciating LA for the same reason, right? Like I think that there are pockets of LA, so you can always experience something different. I think
Yes,
that it would have been boring to only do tech, and that's what San
yes.
Francisco does, right? Like different, but it just I think you have a lot of people that want to achieve great things, but in different areas,
Yeah,
right? You
there's a
have
lot of dreamers. I love the dreamer entrepreneurial energy, and
right.
LA. So where in LA did you live when you were here?
Manhattan Beach, WeHo.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I'm in WeHo right now. Love
Yeah,
WeHo. WeHo and Beverly Hills, where we're recording the podcast today, is a
yeah.
great part of the city. And so, what brought you back to Miami? Was it after you started Papaya and you started getting this base of Peruvian tutors, or like how did you find your way back to Florida?
The pandemic.
Oh, nice. It's pretty
Yeah,
recent.
yeah, exactly. So it was 2020, and I was thinking of like, okay, I really wanna go fully, but I was still working at Accenture. I was like, okay, let me save money, quote unquote, and move to Miami because it was cheaper. Now it's as expensive, and I was like, this will be good for like me saving money. So I moved during the pandemic to like trying to save money and start the company. Um, so that's how it happened, really, because LA was pretty shut down during the
It
pandemic.
was. That's so we were here, my now wife and I, and we really felt the pain of the pandemic, and that's really what inspired Subject was
Yeah.
the Zoom University, stuck in your apartment all day, and turn into Tiger King on Netflix for enjoyment, yeah, or TikTok, and so that really what inspired us. And so you had this vision because of your own experience, and can you talk about how entrepreneurship is so much of solving your own problems
Yeah.
and then scaling it to the masses? Because I kind of had that as well. I love that you said you felt that empathy because you wanted to find someone who could help you at a moment's notice, but the importance of the one-on-one component as well. Talk about your product vision there.
I mean, it's really to democratize access to tutoring, right?
Yeah.
Like I grew up, like I said, from very hardworking parents who put everything into education. So every time my grades would slightly slip, my dad would just put a tutor on me, and I was like, so it was normalized, right? And it's always one on one, and
One-on-one's the best. It's statistically proven, for those of you listening out there, that one-on-one tutoring time impacts a student more than any other metric.
this is what rich people get,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
So like,
They pay for peace.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So that's
Yeah.
why I was like, I in working in Silicon Valley, right? Like seeing how technology has democratized access to so many things that only rich people could afford, right? Like Amazon having a house manager now, it's easy for you to go get your groceries and everything, right? Like somebody does it for you. Uber and Airbnb had democratized access to things that, you know what I mean? Like Uber was like a better way than taxis, right? You would call everybody before you'd get a taxi because it was a horrible experience, too expensive, right? So I was like, oh, I can do this. I can create something like an Uber, but for tutors, right? Because that's my experience was good. I graduated as an engineer, so I'm like, it's proven,
Yeah.
But mainly is to like bring equity to the masses that need it the most, right? Like education to me is so important. I saw my parents coming from nothing. I mean, my dad used to live, we're talking third world country poor, right? Like not here poor, like no running water.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, like their house was like a quarter of this office, like no ceiling. It was like a ceiling that sometimes will fall or like, like, so I've seen that reality and I've seen what education has done for a family of mine, right? And I was like, everybody deserves a chance to success, and it shouldn't be just for the rich people. And we have kids that deserve that chance and that we can give that chance to, right? Like I could have fallen through the cracks so many times had it not been for my parents and for a tutor. Unfortunately, I couldn't say that a teacher saved me, right? It was my parents. And I was like, why can we not do that for
I love what you said about the parents piece, and both my parents, I love them both to death. I really do talk a lot about my relationship with my dad and how he really did impact me more for me than any coaches or teachers, and kind of what your aspiration is as well. I want that to happen to any student because not everyone has a dad or a mom or both who actually are there to support them, and especially some of these areas that are more socioeconomically distressed. We need to be able to support our teachers, coaches, etc., with more great tools, and that's why I love the tutoring focus.
Yeah.
What have you been able to see over your few years running the business in terms of raising venture capital? Congratulations on an incredible pre-seed round. You have great investors on the table. What was that fundraising process like, and how did you be able to meet these people to be able to invest in your business?
I was in an accelerator, and this guy had just raised 35
Which
million.
accelerator? Let's give them a shout out.
Rally.
Shout out to the accelerators out there. They're a great opportunity for you to be able to learn. I did the UCLA Venture Accelerator at Anderson. Shout out Trish Halamandaris. You're amazing. One of the most impactful mentors of my life. Keep going. Shout out accelerators.
Yeah, Rally SEA was for social entrepreneurs. And I met this founder who had just raised so much money. And so I was like, how do you do it? And he's like, Twitter. And I was like, what? I was like, and like as a good immigrant, you think that you have to work hard and it cannot be that easy, right? Like, so I was kind of, I was like skeptic about it. But then I was like, I'm going to try it, like the worst I can, I have nothing to lose essentially, right? So I started putting in my calendar Twitter 3 times a week and just being constant about it. And it's true, right? Like you show up and something will happen. And that's how I met Angel Morales, who I really want to give a huge shout out to because I think we were like commenting on the same thread about education. And I was like, hey, I was like, do you mind like prepping me? I have this like huge pitch it was my first pitch ever. Now I know that you shouldn't pitch to like the venture capital that you want to go to.
Oh, you put them at the end of the week.
Yeah. And it was the first, and he like helped me, and he's like, let me know what happens. I am able to back you because he has a family office. I didn't even know, right? Like he had a family office. He knows Samara from Chingona Ventures, and he's like, if not, I also have amazing venture capital. And honestly, I think that just showing up and being constant, right? That's how I got it, really. Like, I didn't have any network. I didn't know anybody. I just kind of, like, wanted to copy success. And he said Twitter, so I was like, okay, I'll do Twitter, right? And then I emailed, I think that over 100 investors, which I did get an oversubscribed route, so...
Wow, okay, that's huge, especially in these markets. I think you brought up a good point around the social media, and I think we should all lean into it more. And, I'm someone who, for long periods of my life, didn't have any social media, but it is 2024. Hopefully many years from now, people are still listening to this podcast, and maybe it'll be even a little outdated at that point. But social media is a superpower, and it's scale, it's distribution. And I think it's like, well, look, you raised off Twitter. I definitely know that we got some investment from Twitter and LinkedIn.
Yeah.
putting yourself out there is powerful, and being able to embrace potential negativity and hate, while it can be painful in the moment, it helps grow the business. And at the end of the day, a CEO, you're a chief executive officer, your goal is to drive shareholder returns, not to make yourself feel good.
That's true. Yeah, and it builds thick skin, right? And we're
Yeah, no,
both,
I'm learning the hard way. It's good.
yeah.
It's entertaining, though. It is entertaining.
And I mean, we have good practice because we have immigrant parents, so
Yeah.
you know,
Oh, no, exactly.
we're like, okay, this is
My
normal.
parents, it's interesting. My dad, very supportive. My mom is always like, "What are you doing? Like, you're gonna get this onto the family, whatnot." And I, love you, mom. Shout out you. But my dad, like, we talk about, and we laugh. We're like, "This is hilarious. Look at these people. Like, do you ever think this many people will be talking bad about you? How funny is this?"
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, I mean, it's gonna happen, right? Good things and bad things
Yeah.
will come from it, so you just have to embrace it. So yeah, I lean into Twitter. I think I really just raced off Twitter, and because from Twitter I
Twitter
got
is very
connected.
well. So to your point, for our industry, for technology, for
Yeah,
venture capital, Twitter is the place. For
yeah,
some reason, it is. The most prominent venture capitalists have hundreds of thousands of followers
yeah,
on Twitter, some even a million
yeah,
plus. And it's just interesting, the LA creator scene, much more TikTok or IG
hmm,
friendly. But for venture capital,
yeah,
Twitter is the place, which is so interesting to just acknowledge. And that's why it's important as an entrepreneur. You constantly have to be learning where the puck is going
yeah,
and skate towards that.
yeah.
It's 2024. You can't raise capital like you did in 2005. It's a different world out there, and you got to constantly be changing. Have you noticed any other ways you've changed leading your business versus when you were at Accenture consulting companies?
Yes, honestly, and it's not even like something that's like rocket science. I think it's just developing relationships with your team, right? I thought that Accenture, everybody's like go-getters, hungry, and I thought that okay, I have money now. It's not gonna be a problem, right? And I was like, well, I'm paying you. Like, obviously, I like you. You're here. I'm paying you. Like,
Yep.
but I didn't know that developing that relationship, just like a teacher-student, was so
Yes.
key, right, for your team to see the vision. And it's so true what Brian Chesky says about Airbnb, that as a CEO, that's your job. Is really like ruling the vision over and over
Being
again.
repetitive about
Yeah,
it.
yeah, to
Because
your
this problem,
team,
yeah,
everybody.
in your head and my head, we think we're being clear. We think that we've made something clear, but it's proven statistically, sometimes takes over 10 times to hear a comment to actually interpret it the right way. And so I think for any leaders out there, being extremely
Yeah,
repetitive, and again, that's somewhere where the social media helps as well. You're not only being repetitive, you're putting your thoughts into written word. It's
exactly.
very easy for your team to know where you stand. And so
Yeah.
I love what you're talking about in terms of building the relationship, investing in your people. Right now you said that you have about 60% of your workforce in Peru. How do you see the global vision for your brand? It sounds like you're in over 20 countries.
28.
Like, yeah, 28. Wow, that's incredible.
Mhm.
Shout out you. What do you think for the global vision of your brand? Where do you see yourself going next?
I think we're gonna be able to go to all emerging markets because
And
U.S.
what's
is
defined as an emerging market?
so.
In your eyes, of course, yeah.
I mean, I think it's a nice way to say a third world country,
Yeah.
right? And I can say it because I'm from Peru. So, yeah, like, like not a superpower economy. Um, and the US is suffering with bilingual education, right?
Absolutely.
And that's where I think like we got a product market fit because they keep suffering about like not having enough bilingual teachers,
It's a
right?
huge shortage right now.
And
And
then
there's so many immigrants who need our support.
exactly. And they don't, I mean, I just cannot imagine going to a country, right? Not speaking the language, just being in a tunnel, right? In school and just not understanding anybody or anything, right? And that keeps happening. So now we're like, do you have Ukrainian tutors? Do you have
Yes.
Russian tutors? Do you have like Filipino? Like it keeps growing. So we keep like getting other tutors too that they see our ads on LinkedIn, they find that. So there's need on both sides of the marketplace, right? There's need here and there's a need for really smart people in emerging markets. I think that that's one of the reasons why I started Papaya as well. I remember my tutor, right, who I thought was a genius, and
Yeah.
like the
And to
most,
you, they were because they made the difference in your life.
well, and not only a genius, but also emotionally smart, Like he
And they have the
never,
heart. Yeah.
exactly, he never made me feel dumb. Where the tutoring at college, the guy didn't know that English was my second language, so he was like questioning, right, like my intelligence, and that's what happens to people whose like first language is not English, right? So I remember like my tutor just being comfortable and like being transparent about like not understanding a topic, and that man never got like annoyed. I know I would have been. I'm like, it's the eighth time. Come on, like get it together, you know. But no, he was like so patient. Like I mean, it takes vocation. I think it's a skill that I don't have that I admire, right? From educators overall, right? Like not just tutors. So I remember like getting my job at Accenture, and I'm like, wow, like I'm getting this like crazy opportunity,
It's
right?
an incredible company, great brand.
And I was like the only hire from my school that year because
Yeah.
they didn't hire from UCF yet. So, but I remember thinking like, what about my tutor? Like, what, like, how come I like get this opportunity and my tutor doesn't? Like, and I
Yeah.
felt like that side of privilege that was benefiting me, and like I felt like that's the first time I felt like life is not fair. I was like,
No, yeah,
this
there's
is
not a
so
lot of
sad.
fairness. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
and so we got to do our part. I think one question I definitely want to ask is, you came here at 17, so did you go to high school in Florida the
No,
last?
no, thank God.
Wow, okay, so you came for university.
I actually tried to get into high school because I knew I was like gonna get a scholarship or something. But now that I know more, and no
Wow, so
offense,
you did all, no, no, there's no, like, let's dive in. So you did all your pre-college in
I
Peru.
did, yeah.
Wow, cool. So keep going before I cut you off. No
No,
offense.
no, it's okay. I was just thinking like about my tutor and just feeling like I wanted to do something, but I didn't know what it was yet. I just was like, I wanted to do something. Like I was like, this is not okay, right? Like, and just like my tutor, there's so many like smart people all over the world that will never get the chance, right? So, and not only they don't get the chance, it's there's lack of job opportunities in their country. So I do see us going everywhere, even building like a workforce globally, right? Because our tutors are usually engineering students. That's how we started. So workforce globally that companies from the U.S. can and other like superpower economies can hire from, right? So I believe now that the American dream can be achieved from your country. So if you're like that one.
That's so beautiful. I love the passion you have. And the one thing we do always love to be able to bring full circle, especially one, you came back to LA, but no, full circle to your high school version of yourself. And that's usually how we love to be able to speak to our fans and listeners. If there was one thing you could tell your 16, 17-year-old self today, what would it be and why? And how do you speak to that student today?
Oh God. Keep believing in yourself because I know that no matter what, I always believed in myself. I would say like keep believing in yourself, and everything's gonna be okay, right? Like keep believing in yourself, keep working hard, and keep having that heart that you have, right? Because I always wanted to like do something that can affect or impact people in a good way for the better. Um, so I would say that just keep like following your heart because that's another reason why I came here, right? Like I was like, I just feel like I have to go, like I have to do this on my own, like. So I always follow my heart. So I would say like keep following your heart, right? Like it will tell you the truth and it will guide you the right way.
Yes, make sure you maintain your confidence because if you don't maintain your confidence, it's hard for other people to give it to you. And so be confident, believe in yourself, positive words of affirmation,
Yeah,
be kind to yourself, be a good person to yourself
yeah.
because so many people forget about those qualities. And so I really appreciate everything you've been able to share with us today. And can we put a shameless plug for your company right now? Where do we find you?
PapayaTutor.com.
Make sure you go check it out today, papayatutor.com. We are so thankful you came on the show today. We are so excited to have you as a return guest shortly. And again, follow us on Spotify and YouTube on the subject. I'm your host, Michael Vilardo. Click like, click subscribe below so we can have more incredible entrepreneurs and leaders in industry on our show soon. Thank you so much for being on the show today,
Thank
Sandra.
you.